Dumb, cool,
and weird
podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third episode of the Dumb, Cool, Weird podcast with Wes and Nick. I'm Wes.
And I'm Nick.
And today is going to be a fun episode. We are doing obesity in the West.
Oh, yes. Something we both struggled with as children and
yes.
adults.
Oh, yes.
But we're getting better.
We're getting better. I'm more of just a little overweight now.
Yeah, I used to be 250 pounds. And, I told myself, how do people commit to this? I couldn't even feel my feet. I couldn't go down to, tie my shoes without feeling like I was out of breath. Yeah. So, how do you just sit over there and go, well, I'm 250. Let's just get to 350, 400 pounds. Better start chugging the butter.
Yep, and that's pretty much how it always goes. They're always talking about chugging the butter, especially because we live in the South. And down here in the South, we're known for being really heavy down here. We are immense.
I mean, fucking Paula Deen killed a generation of people with diabetes.
Yeah, and y'all all know about the diabetes guy.
That's why we're on the lower calorie beers.
Yeah, today the beer of the day is the Sweetwater low calorie easy IPA highlight is what they call it, and it's only got 100 calories per beer. So if you have an obesity problem, you might need to be drinking this.
Actually, you should probably just quit drinking beer altogether and go over to seltzers and actual water.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Yeah, with me, I'm about 30 pounds away from being a healthy weight, so I'm not too far away from a healthy weight myself. I'm about 22 or 23% body fat, and I should be more like 15 to 16% body fat.
About 222 now, so I've lost a good bit of weight since I reached that 250. Mm-hmm. Big goal here is to get down to 200 pounds. 190 is the peak of that goal, but 200 is right where I would like to be sitting, at least comfortably for the time being.
And how tall are you?
5'5".
Yeah, see, I'm 6 foot. At my height, with the muscle mass I'm trying to have, I need to weigh 220 pounds. Right now, I weigh 245.
Yeah, and 222, 220, right where I'm at. It's still pretty heavy, so it's not good.
Well,
but it's better.
But for me, 220 wouldn't be too bad for me at my height.
I mean, for you, yes, but for myself, 200 to 180 is great. Yeah. Kind of like around the Franco Columbu look.
Yeah, because he was competing in the 200-pound weight class.
I mean, you saw how big he was when he was 180.
Yeah.
Because he was only 5'3".
Yeah, what is it? Their weight class is what? Under 200 pounds, right at 200 pounds or something like that?
Yeah, but Arnold was 240. Maybe 220 when he actually went on stage.
Yeah, Arnold's 2 inches taller than me, too.
Yeah, but, I mean, the man is built like a machine. He is a cybernetic organism.
Yeah, and he's going to come and terminate you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because we have that poster back here somewhere.
Yeah, it's right behind you, but you can't see it.
Oh, it's right there. It's right there. But let's start this off with some facts and figures. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
So I have some notes here. So obesity is a common, serious, and costly disease in the United States.
Really now?
I know, right? The U.S. prevalence of obesity is 42%, and that is as of 2018. So it might have actually changed since the pandemic in 2020. Who knows?
Probably 60% now.
Yeah, it may be. But it changed from 1999 to 2018 from 30% to 42%. So within the span of about almost 20 years, we've gone from 30% of the population to almost half of the population being obese, which is crazy.
It's kind of crazy because there was actually a U.S. general talking about this once on a TED Talk.
Yeah. And
he said, we are our own national security threat from how fat we are.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because there's no one can enlist because most kids are growing up obese these days. The military doesn't even want to take you on as a project. They're just trying to ship you out as soon as possible. Why would they want to waste their time investing hours making sure you're physically fit enough to go, but your body's already pretty much destroyed?
Well, it's a liability, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad either way when you think about it. When more of the young generation are more obese than when we were growing up.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I mean, I remember when I was going to school towards the end of my career in college, I remember seeing some really obese kids walking around that were Generation Z.
Dude, when I went from 200 pounds down to 170 just to ship out to recruit training. That was rough.
How did you feel at that weight?
Awful. Like I felt like I was a piece of beef jerky.
So you felt sick when you're underweight?
Yeah, when I'm like 170, it's pretty bad. Like I kind of feel myself like weak. Like 180, 190, I feel great. But when I start like reaching 200 and above, where I'm currently at, I feel like crap.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing for me. Like right now, I don't feel like the best. I mean, I don't feel like I'm dying or anything. But if I was 220, 215, I'd probably feel pretty healthy right now.
Yeah. If I was at 200 pounds, I'd feel amazing.
Yeah, because about 4 months ago, I was at 225 pounds. I felt pretty healthy even then.
I mean, yesterday I shaved my face and everything so that I could just kind of see how I look. You know, I'm looking a lot better. I could see my jawline a whole lot better than when I was a lot heavier. But Jesus Christ, I got a big ass fucking potato head. I look like a chonky pit bull.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think your haircut looks good though.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. But I mean, I'm not. I need this hat right now because I got this really big ass potato-y head.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you. Glad you decided to wear the hat. I like the Cypress Hill hat. It's definitely really cool.
Great concert.
Oh, yeah.
Got to go see them again.
Maybe when we're not obese, though.
Yeah, you know, I mean, we might get the munchies in the bathroom.
Yeah. But on a serious note, this is a serious note right here. So obesity causes problems like heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, certain types of cancers, and these are among the leading causes of preventable and premature death. I also know that it can cause joint problems. It can also cause problems with your other organs like your kidneys and your liver and other stuff because it has to work harder. And I also know that being obese also affects your depression and your anxiety as well. And it can lead to some serious mental health problems as well.
Well, I mean, it makes a lot of sense why a lot of the people who are walking around who are overweight have emotional issues.
Yeah.
Because your hormones are all fucked up.
Yeah. That makes sense. And to add, this is some more information from the CDC website, by the way. This is, this
isn't us making shit up.
No, this is definitely peer-reviewed science, and you can go look it up. So it's on the website, and every single one of these like facts and figures actually has a link to the case study and the scientific article that talks about this stuff. So this isn't made up stuff for all the people that are talking about fat phobia and the fat acceptance movement.
Oh yeah.
We're not trying to make fun of you guys. We're being dead serious. Like, this is some serious shit right here.
Yeah.
It's been studied for decades at this point. But the annual medical cost of obesity for an average person is about $1,400, which is on average like more than the normal person. That's expensive. Yeah. And the cost in 2008 was rated at $147 billion for obesity overall. So it's also costing us a lot of money as well.
It's kind of interesting, though, but obese people also put our medical staff in hospitals at risk, too, or our first responders when they have to go and pick them up.
Well, I work in the medical field. I shoot medical videos, by the way, if nobody knows that. And half of our products are for people who are bariatric, and that's the technical term for obese. So we have bariatric style stuff for people, which is walkers, rollators, wheelchairs, different types of seating, and all that different types of stuff as well.
When you start having those moments in your life where you can't walk, you should be putting down the butter and start like picking up a salad or something, man. Because I don't know, it's pretty bad to look at people who've just given up on themselves.
We're gonna get into this obviously over the hour, but one thing I will say, I think obesity is a result of poor nutrition and too much sugar. That's my personal opinion. I don't think it's necessarily butter. I know butter is kind of like
butter's the go-to diabetes joke.
It's always funny when you talk about butter, but one of the things we're going to talk about a lot of things in this podcast, but one of the things we're definitely going to go into later is about how sugar is like the leading cause of diabetes and other types of illnesses, and it also causes you to be obese. And it kind of starts in childhood too. But Just to add, the groups that are affected the most are non-Hispanic Black adults, and that's 49% of the population of that particular group. So basically, African Americans, it affects like 49% of the population of African Americans. Really? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It also affects Hispanics, and it affects 44% of their population. And with whites, it's 42%. And with Asians, it's only 17%. So Asian folks probably have something figured out. It could be their diets.
Yeah, I mean, like it's like Japanese diet, for example, is a lot of fish, man, they've got something figured out there because they really don't eat as much processed food like we do.
Interesting fact right here, though. It says that overall, men and women with college degrees had a lower obesity prevalence compared to those with less education. Now, that's interesting. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
That does make sense.
Because the more educated you are, the better choices you're going to make with food.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But that was just a few facts and figures from the CDC website, which you guys can go check out. And I'll put a link in the description below, and you can check it out.
Yeah.
So, but get back on topic. So Nick, when you were growing up, did you have childhood obesity problems?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it really all started when I got to a certain age and I was just overeating all the time, like especially with Italian food, man. Like I'm Italian, so most of our food is just carbs. It's just carbs and meats, but it's all this unhealthy carbs that you're putting in your body. And then it's weird to people like culturally, you're eating so much food. Whenever you're going to family get-togethers or just going over to people's houses, they're just like shoveling shit inside of your plate. Damn. And after a while, you're just like, okay, well, you know what? I guess I'm going to just keep eating now because I don't want to make grandma sad.
Yeah, and you should never do that. If you're full, push yourself away from the table. Never, ever try to make yourself eat more than you should eat. It's never a good idea.
Also, if somebody says that, like that you're not allowed to leave the table until you finish everything, don't listen to that shit.
Dude, I used to hear that shit all the time growing up, and that's probably part of the problem too, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the next big thing though is like you have the European-sized portions of things, which are a lot smaller, but then you have the American-sized portion of the same food, and now you're reaching levels of obesity already because you're going to eat that at least 3 times a day. And imagine eating like a big like American or like a Canadian style of just pasta, this big ass bowl right in front of you instead of like a little small plate or a small bowl.
Yeah, and I remember back when I was a teenager, what was really popular when we played football is you'd see like these big obese like linemen. Well, they weren't always obese. Sometimes they were just big. They would always get like when we go to football camp, they would get these big bowls that were like this big, and they'd fill it up with Captain Crunch. And I'm pretty sure that was like 300 grams of sugar per bowl.
Dude, I'm telling you, the Captain Crunch. If you ever fucking depressed and you think about like hurting yourself, go eat a bowl of Captain Crunch. You don't even need a big bowl like that. You just need a small bowl to cut away at all of your problems in life by cutting the roof of your mouth.
And then you'll also have that sugar crash later, and it doesn't feel very good.
You just shit your pants.
Yeah, most people don't know this, but when you get older and you basically stop eating as much sugar, and then you eat something like Captain Crunch or something that's got a lot of sugar, you actually have a sugar crash, and it fucking hurts. It does not feel good at all. When you're a kid, you don't really notice it because your body can handle it when you're a child, but when you get old, like it starts being painful.
Dude, the worst thing, I think speaking about sugar, my buddy and I drank like 7 NOS energy drinks within our shift one time. And I'm telling you, man, I got the runs. I was like just shitting out NOS just because of how my body couldn't process it anymore. Like speaking about sugar, it's like, so you're like high off of your ass from that shit, like from the sugar and the energy that you have in those drinks. But then afterwards, you're just shitting it out. You're like running like the Flash to the shitter.
I bet.
Like that's the next thing. It's like I've noticed that when you get older, it runs through you so fast.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Speaking of which, it's really hot in here.
It really is.
I'm like sweating really bad.
That's what happens when you keep the house at 75 degrees.
Yeah, I mean it's hot in here right now also because we have everything closed off. But man, I feel like a fat guy sitting in a sauna right now.
Hey, at least you're not the old man who pulls his balls out to show off to everybody. His unpendulumed balls.
Yeah, that's terrible.
They're like right by his knees now. The fat guy feels uncomfortable and he's not sure what to do, but he needs to lose weight, so he's in there.
And there's always that really ripped Asian guy that comes in there too, and he sits in the back corner and he kind of just sits there and judges everybody.
He's wearing a sweater and some sweatpants too. Yeah. He, like, the old guy came in with nothing. He just put the towel down to rest his balls on.
Yeah, and then you have that one guy that comes into the sauna and nobody knows who he is because he never comes to the gym very much. But he's sort of in shape, but he's not. He's like skinny fat.
You know? Yeah, he's the dad bod.
Yeah, you're like, oh, looks like Joe Schmo came into the gym for the first time in like 3 months, and we probably won't see him again for another 3 months. See you later, Joe.
I mean, it's kind of so. This is the next thing though too. Just because you look like you're in shape, you've noticed that a lot of people really aren't that great in shape at times too. Like, I watched an old man who was in his 70s do 40 pull-ups, like slow, strict form pull-ups, while these kids, like, who looked like they were in better shape than him were trying to do it with a 45-pound plate around their waist. He just kind of, like, they took his pull-up bar too, by the way. It's known that when he's in the gym, you don't take his pull-up bar.
Oh, boy.
So he's just kind of like showing off to these kids. He's like, here, let me just show you how it's done.
Well, you saw that Facebook post I showed you, right? The God of War Facebook post where they were talking about Thor.
Oh yeah.
And they had him with a big fat pot belly gut, like, and I guess that works for the mythos behind Thor, like in mythology. I'm not sure. I don't really know, but the thing is, people are glorifying it, I think, because people are self-conscious that they have big fat fucking guts, you know?
So this is like the next big thing, like how we have all this like this body positivity crap where we're telling each other like, oh yeah, you look good as a bigger person, and you're just like, oh, I'm just a power lifter now. I'm a strong man. Hear me roar.
Well, the thing is,
eating the butter.
Well, the thing is, I totally support people being comfortable in their bodies. I think the part of body positivity that I like, and the fat acceptance thing that I like, is it's not right to make fun of people for being like fat, you know, in most ways. Like, you know, me and him will poke fun at being fat because me and him were fat at one time and we're still kind of overweight. And
working on it, really.
It's kind of like more of a comedic thing for us because it's funny, you know. But in all seriousness, though, like I don't really think it's okay to like go around and like seriously trying to hurt people because they're being fat. Now, what I will say though about the body positivity movement and the fat acceptance movement is I don't like how it's telling people it's okay to be obese, because it's really not.
Like, you're auditioning for my 600-pound life.
Yes, and you're auditioning to be in an early grave when you're 40. And that's there's no joke. I'm not joking about that. I'm being dead fucking serious.
The thing that always annoyed me when going to the grocery store, like, this happened twice. It was like I was just walking to the grocery store when we were still having to wear masks and stuff at the store. And this one overweight male nurse who's smoking in the parking lot with his mask like right under his chin.
Yeah.
Yells at me. He's like, "Hey, put on your mask." I'm looking at him like, you're fat and smoking, and you're a healthcare worker. I was like, this is not right. Like, you are an interesting form of irony, sir.
Yeah. Anytime I see healthcare workers that are really obese, I'm always like, wow. Like, I just wonder if like a doctor walks by them and just like says something to them every once in a while, you know?
Well, to be honest with you, have you ever noticed how you're like some of your doctors are like always telling you how to manage your weight and everything, and they always have a giant gut.
Yeah.
Or they're like way past their prime in understanding health science. Like, hey, don't do creatine, it'll kill you.
Yeah, but then they're also kind of big themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting like that. I mean, I got yelled at like a couple of months ago while I was at the store by another fat guy with the mask on, telling me I have to wear the mask, but his cart, like his little basket, was filled with cartons of cigarettes.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
Or when people would come in, like to the liquor store I was working at, when they would wear masks, like, and they were also obese and talking to me about, like, I ain't getting the vaccine. I don't want to compromise my health. I'm just like, oh my, how you are so wrong.
Well, it's, this is what I always tell people. If you're overweight or you're obese and you think that you're healthy, because nothing's wrong right now, doesn't mean something's not going to happen to you when you get older. If I always recommend go to your doctor and get some blood work done, because the numbers don't lie with the blood work. And that's something I always preach. Yeah, I'm not going to judge you based off of what you look like. I'm going to be cool with you however you are.
Yeah.
But if you're obese or you're overweight and you got problems, I really recommend you go and get some blood tests done, because the blood work does not lie. It'll tell you how unhealthy you are, and it's just it's hard science. It's a baseline for everything that's going on in your life.
The worst thing is like when you kind of look at celebrities who are overweight as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like your Lizzo's, your Tess Hollidays, like just people who are overweight.
Yeah,
and people are always like, oh well, they clearly have to be healthy. They're moving, they're working out.
Yeah, but we don't know what their blood work says.
Oh no. That's the funny part about like someone like Lizzo, for example, where they talk about how their blood work came out good, right? And how you were saying, you might be good at this moment, but you're not good a few months down the line, a year down the line. Yeah. It's like a smoker, right? It's like, you always have that one relative in your family who just doesn't want to quit because
My mom.
But the thing is that they're always like, well, doctor says I got a really healthy lungs for somebody who smokes as much as I do. Like, it's like a badge of honor. And you're like, that means he's like kind of creeped out by how well your lungs are functioning for somebody who smokes as much as you do, because he's just waiting for you to die now.
Well, it's like my mom. My mom's been smoking for, I think she said like 40 years, Jesus. I mean, that's a long time to be smoking cigarettes. And she's in relatively okay health, but here it is, folks. She quit smoking recently. And why did she quit smoking? Because they found a couple spots on her lungs. And her blood pressure is higher now. And she's having trouble sleeping, and they think it's all related to the smoking.
I know that I quit smoking over a year ago, and it's been better.
Yeah. So, like Nick was saying, don't think that just because there's nothing wrong now that there won't be a problem later. It's the obesity. It's I mean, we're drinking alcohol right now, but I drink in moderation. I don't drink. Yeah. I only drink like maybe once or twice a week, and I only have like a couple beers. But people who abuse alcohol like crazy, alcoholics who drink every day,
yeah,
people who smoke cigarettes every day, people who don't exercise enough, when it comes to obesity, you're going to have problems down the road. You may not have issues now, but you will have issues down the road because there's risk factors for having problems like that.
It's also something that's interesting when it comes to a lot of men coming up with like where they sort of like accept their overweightness. Yeah. Because I've been down this road myself, and I've seen a lot of guys that I know do the same thing, where they say, "Oh, I'm a power lifter now," or "I'm a strong man." Like they've kind of accepted this part of their life,
mm-hmm.
and then they start eating the excess calories to lift the weight.
Yeah,
but they're not in any good shape.
No,
I mean, if you really want, but they compare themselves to trying to get to guys' levels like Eddie Hall or some of the other strong men, like Thor Bjornsson, guys like that, who are bigger, but when they're not in season, they're like they've cut.
Yeah.
Like Eddie Hall cut a lot of weight off because it's bad on his body after a while.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not a good way. Like even strongmen competitors and powerlifters, they have to go see the doctor a lot because they got to make sure that their health is still in check. Because even if you're at their weight and you still look like you're in a better shape than most people are,
yeah,
you have a lot of problems connected with that. It's like, what is it? Like a lot of the bodybuilders that we see today with the bubble guts and everything.
Yeah, they
have health issues related to their sport altogether.
Yeah, it's because they've been abusing those drugs for so long,
Well,
I mean, those performance enhancing drugs are, can be very beneficial, but just like anything else in life, if you abuse it too much, it's going to cause you problems later on in life,
I think the saddest thing is like also realizing that you're putting a lot of pressure on your body trying to get as big as they are and be as lean as they need to be to perform on stage.
Yeah.
Like your body's going through a lot at that moment.
Yeah. I mean, my goal in the next 6 months is to try to get down to 10% body fat. And, I hired a trainer, my friend Chelsea, and she's going to help me. But it's going to be rough. I mean, I'm going to have to work really hard. And I mean, I could still drink beer every once in a while, but I'm going to have to cut out a good bit of it,
Yeah. I've noticed that since I changed up my training routine and everything, I'm feeling bigger. Like I'm not feeling like when I was like on that 4-month calisthenic kick.
I'll tell you this, at 32 years old, I feel way healthier than I did when I was like 23, 22 years old. When I was about 22, 23, I was pretty overweight at that point, and I've had anxiety attacks and panic attacks all the time, and my blood pressure was elevated and all that, and now my blood pressure is more regulated, and I feel a lot better than I did when I was around that time.
I felt like a lot of people in society let us get to that point though too, where instead of like telling us like, hey, you're overweight, like I mean, you can hear the doctor say that you're overweight, but if you hear everyone else in your life constantly giving you this positive reinforcement, you're not going to believe that you're overweight.
Well, it's only recently that the body positivity movement is like started talking about men more, because usually at first it was about women being overweight or obese, and now they're starting to talk about men being obese, which I was very surprised by that, because it wasn't really talked about for the first couple of years. I didn't even know if they were even going to mention it at all. But it's very fascinating that they're just now starting to talk about that stuff. But the way that men and women view being fat or obese is very different. Men, typically what men will do is we will joke around with each other about us being fat or obese or overweight. And women typically don't do stuff like that. They typically get very self-conscious and upset about it. But men were just like, for instance, you could be sitting at the office or something, and Joe could walk in, and Steve could be sitting at his desk. Steve could be like having a beer gut going on, and he'd be like, "Oh, Steve, you look kind of fat there, buddy. What's going on, man?" And he's just like, "Yeah, I just put on a few pounds." It's like, "Yeah, man, you should probably work on that." And he's like, "Yeah, I probably should." And that's how guys interact with each other when we talk about each other being fat. That's usually how it goes every time.
It's like one of my buddies. We do this thing where every time one of us says, "Hey, feeling a little overweight," and he's like, "How about you quit being fat?"
Yeah, yeah. It's like men use humor to try to help each other with the obesity thing, but then women are a lot more direct and more serious about it.
But at the same time, they seem to also get pretty emotional about it too when you do mention it, because I've noticed when you mention like a guy, like if you're direct with a guy and you say, "Hey, bud, you're like 4 out of 5 people that I know who are fat."
Yeah.
It's like, you're that big. You need to go and do something about it.
Yeah, but you don't say that to a woman though.
No. But it's like if you were to just go up to a woman and say like, "Hey, you need to lose some weight," it's gonna turn into a screaming match. Or like even if you find a way to make it sound polite.
Well, now like what's different now is a lot of people, like a lot of women, are trying to pull men into that body positivity thing now too. So that's what I'm saying. Like they're probably not even going to be okay with you making fun of each other anymore. So men aren't. It's going to be like men can't joke about it anymore. With each other.
It's kind of just like looking for allies when you realize that nobody is taking your movement seriously. Even though the body positivity movement was hijacked by the obese people, when it was actually for people who were born without limbs,
I remember when
lost limbs, or are burn victims, like people who have experienced serious trauma in their life where they've actually lost parts of their body or like have had serious damage to their body. It wasn't meant for, "Oh, I can't stop eating, so you have to accept me."
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
I was like, a lot of those people are people who served this country who lost their limbs in battle. It's like, I mean, if you think about it, that takes a toll on you to lose a part of your body.
I bet it does.
And trying to go through life like that afterwards, it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, I bet it does. I mean, I couldn't even imagine what it's like losing like a limb. Especially if you lose like your leg and then you have to learn how to walk again with a prosthetic. And then if you lose your arm, then you got to learn how to grip things with a prosthetic. That must be pretty crazy.
I think that crazy. So the thing is like I've had to build myself up again from nothing after getting injured multiple times. So, or work around injuries currently. It's a challenge. I couldn't imagine where you've actually lost that part of your body.
Yeah.
And then have to I'm trying to say here, you have to navigate your way through getting back on track. Like I think a very interesting guy who's an amputee, for example, is a guy like Wyden, who put out a lot of his stuff about like how his emotional, like how he was emotionally, how he was when he lost his leg, just going through the motions. And he's in really good shape, but he's had his ups and downs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I just remember growing up, my dad, this is my story. Growing up, my dad was very particular about what me and my sister ate. We ate very healthy, and I was pretty skinny for the first 8-9 years of my life.
Yeah.
And then when I turned about 10 years old, I started seeing my mom more on the regular. My mom started giving me fast food, which made my dad really mad, by the way.
Yeah.
But I just remember I would be with her, and she would feed us all this terrible food that my dad just didn't want us eating.
Yeah.
And by the time I reached 11 years old, I was obese as a child.
Yeah.
So, like I said, though, for the first 10 years of my life, though, I wasn't really obese. I was just
I would say
skinny.
It started when I was like 7.
Yeah.
Just a little earlier, but I mean, it's not good either way because I've always been up and down. And I mean, I've got my battles with food itself, but I find it's also getting me in the right mindset too. I mean, currently, I'm just trying to get back into shape because I don't like not being able to move as well as I used to.
Well, what age would you think when you started getting skinnier again?
It was 2013 actually.
Interesting, because for me, I was fat when I was 11, and then I lost weight when I turned about 14, and I was a freshman in high school, and I started like really working out because I was playing football.
Yeah.
And when I turned about 15 years old, I was relatively thin compared to like what I was then. I still had a little bit of a pudge in my stomach.
So 2013 was when the process truly began to where I actually made real life changes because, like I said, I've always been very up and down about things, but that was because I didn't really know how to work out or really committed. I didn't really commit to working out until 2013 when I met one of my friends in college, and he taught me how to use like powerlifting and bodybuilding, like just strength training.
To your advantage.
And so for the first month, he had me on like a strict workout of like every body part.
Yeah.
For the day. So you like that was rough at the beginning, but I saw the results. I remember him like saying, I tried to weasel my way out of going to the gym the first day that we were supposed to start. Mm-hmm. I was wearing my Doc Martens and I was wearing like jeans. I had my leather jacket. I purposely tried to get out of it. And he was like, I don't care. He's like, you're going to the gym like right now. He took me to the gym and I started working out. And I was like, man, this sucks. But then I realized like I got all the endorphins from really working out.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you got those endorphins from working out.
But the biggest issue was today is still going down that little hole where I want to be comfortable with just lifting weights or hanging out on machines. And I think the best thing for me is doing more explosive stuff and working on calisthenics. Like, because I find what happens is when I go down too much into the lifting realm, I try lifting more than I should. And like I said, I've got injuries that I shouldn't be playing around. I shouldn't be playing around with like that, but it's that mindset of like, oh, but I want to see if I can push this even farther. And then realizing, okay, I can't. But then I start like feeling like shit. And I've noticed that calisthenics keeps me in that good headspace where I could work out for like 2 hours, but I don't have that hurtful burn like if I do over an hour of lifting.
Yeah, that's good. I mainly just do a lot of strength training, and I do some cardio, and I try to do it about 5 times a week.
That's
you know?
where I'm at.
So it definitely helps me a lot.
So I'm on Franco Columbo's his routine,
Yeah.
but I've broken it down like pretty much. It's like, so it's not me mixing two body parts together per day. It's me doing one body part a day for an hour. And on Fridays, I strictly stick to calisthenics and explosive stuff.
Yeah.
Just to keep it changed up, because I can't do just the strict like weightlifting all those days throughout the week. And then the good thing about Franco's workout, though, is it actually incorporates a lot of endurance movements and calisthenics still.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it's I always encourage people to find a workout program, that works for them, and that's what I would be doing if I was you guys. I would be doing a workout program that you can keep going with, and try to find a diet plan that doesn't make you hate yourself. That's what I was talking about earlier about food and stuff. Try to avoid sugar as much as you can, and try to eat better quality foods that you can eat at home, and try to eat foods that you actually enjoy eating, that taste good to you. Try to find healthy foods that taste good to you, and try to find really interesting ways to cook them so you don't ever get bored.
Yeah.
And pretty much you'll figure out how to not eat crap. I mean, I don't eat fast food ever. I maybe only had fast food like once every couple of months, personally.
I think the only thing that I can have for like a cheat meal these days is to have like wings or a pizza, like to share a pizza with my wife or my friends.
I mean, that's how it is for me too. I basically only have a cheat meal every once in a while, and it's every once in a blue moon. And you came. I remember when you came over earlier. You said, "Oh, I see that you went and got a couple slices of pizza from Whole Foods," and that's like a cheat meal for me, is having a couple of slices of pizza.
Yeah.
And some people will have a cheat meal where they eat an entire pizza, and I don't do that. I only have like a couple slices.
I used to eat like a lot of shitty food in copious amounts, but I think the biggest thing that killed me was my drinking of like beer. Like I just drank. I'd buy a 30 rack and I can kill 15 before I started feeling a buzz.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am too. It's funny. The other day, I was drinking a couple of beers. I think I drank like 3 or 4 beers, and when I popped open a 5th beer, I literally looked at the can and I go, I don't even want this, and I poured it down the sink and went to bed. That's kind of where I'm at now. I'm just so over like drinking like that anymore. I can't do it anymore.
I find eating things that are too greasy or too sugary, like since I'm on a much cleaner diet these days, it hurts. Like after you eat it, you feel like the bloated, sick feeling.
Yeah, like you want to pop.
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah, it's never a good feeling. I totally feel you. Yeah, I think the worst thing for me is if I know I've already had enough calories for the day, and then I go over it a little bit. Yeah. And it's not really an eating disorder thing. It's more like I feel bad. I feel sick if I go over my calories.
Because it's easier to live in a calorie deficit than to stay on a specific diet. Like,
yeah.
That's the thing. There's so many fad diets these days. You got your obviously. You can use something like intermittent fasting. Well.
Yeah.
If you just like set up your times properly and stick by them. There's nothing wrong with that, because all you're doing is just setting a certain window to eat food.
Yeah.
But if you're only eating like once or twice a day, I find that's when it starts to get a little bit dangerous, because you might be overeating within those 1 or 2 meals throughout the day.
Yeah.
And because you're feeling like too starved out, you might overeat.
Yeah.
Past what you put out for the day.
That makes sense.
So I think it's like definitely good if you're a well-disciplined person.
Yeah.
But if you're not a well-disciplined person, you could say, "Oh, I'm intermittent fasting," and eat about 5 Big Macs, and people are gonna be like, "What was the point?" By the way, there was a guy that I overheard. He was kind of bragging about it when I was at a restaurant with my wife. He's like, "Yeah, I only eat like 1 meal a day," and he's like talking about like how he eats like a quarter pounder, a Big Mac, 2 large fries, and you're just like, and I was like, that's fucking disgusting, man.
Ugh.
Like my wife is listening to this, like, and she's like, He's like, he sounds like he's about to, like he's gonna die.
It's like his last meal, right?
Yeah, it's like a last meal like you get before you get killed on death row. But dude, and the thing was is like he had a lot of pride in it, but he was out of shape too. Like he was like talking about his workout routine and everything, and you're just like, dude, it's not working out. You might want to change it up to something else. You know, maybe not eat like one meal from McDonald's every day.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how people just they just don't care, you know.
But there are like people who use intermittent fasting to their advantage. I think like I've seen people who look good.
I use it pretty often. I don't do it all the time, but I do it like 4 or 5 times a week.
I think when it comes down to like vegetarianism and like the vegan diet, I think it's a good like cleanse if you do it for like a week or two. But to continue on with it, it could have some serious side effects.
Yeah, it can. I mean, honestly, I like the idea of diet. What you know how they do carb cycling?
Yeah.
Maybe like a diet cycle would be kind of cool. Like where you eat more of a plant-based diet for a little while, and then you switch back to slowly eating meat again. And I think that could probably be pretty beneficial.
I feel like you could do something where you're like the first week you're sort of like getting all your animal proteins in. The second week you switch more to a vegetarian diet, so you're still having like the eggs and the dairy, and then one week you try like a vegan diet, and then circle back around basically.
Well, it makes sense that would actually be okay for a human being because by nature, you know, back when we were cavemen and we were basically hunting and gathering for food, we were opportunistic scavengers. Basically, we would find whatever we could find to eat, and we would just eat it, and that would be able to sustain us. So maybe that's why diets like that kind of work, because these bodies we have been engineered through natural selection, you know, in biology, you know, through evolution, to be able to handle different types of foods at any different times, because that's, you know, we have to eat what we can find, you know.
Well, that's why they say like that. I think there was a doctor. I would have to say he was talking about how like certain cultures too don't process a lot of the sugar that we have in our foods. Like God, there was a documentary you have to watch in health back in like college.
Mm-hmm.
Where they were going to one of those island nations, and the almost the whole nation is obese.
Yeah.
And you're just looking at it as like, well, you know, that would definitely make sense because they're mostly now relying on a very Americanized diet.
Yep. I mean, there's certain tribes that live specifically off the roots of different types of trees and vegetables and stuff that grow in the ground, you know, and that's all they eat. Certain types of like tribes. I saw a special about that, and then I've seen a special where some people who live on the coast mostly only eat fish, you know, because that's what's available to them. And then people who live deep in the woods, like up in the mountains, they mostly eat like wild game, like deer and stuff like that. I mean, obviously we live in modern civilization, so we don't go and hunt our food as much anymore. But what they mean by that is humans, whenever we settle somewhere, we usually just live off the land and we eat what we can find, you know?
Like, I think it was kind of interesting because I was watching National Geographic Below Zero. That was pretty cool to see, like, these Canadians, like, set up nets to get massive amounts of fish or go on hunts. Like, there's still people who do that, and it kind of interests me to see. It's like, you want to know, like, hey, I wonder what it's like to, I mean, it's a very rough life, clearly, but you want to say maybe they're living the dream in a way because they get to survive in a whole new other level.
Well, it's, you know, like imagine being in Alaska where you're in a place where vegetation doesn't really grow that well, you know, for most of the year. Imagine you have to eat mostly meat, you know. You got to find like what's living. Like
I feel like there might be some misconceptions also about Alaska because we're just so closed off from that state. Like maybe they do have, like I've been hearing like my buddy's like really into looking up TikToks on Alaska because he wants to move up there, and he was saying that it's not as like wild frozen wasteland as we think it is.
Well, that's why I say most of the year. I mean, I'm sure there's times of the year where it's pretty green because I've seen pictures of it when it's like really green.
Yeah.
But also keep in mind Alaska is really dark for certain times of the year too, and I couldn't deal with that.
Apparently, there's some spots though that what I've heard is that there's not really much nighttime for them.
Yeah.
So so
it's almost like a twilight.
Yeah. So So you actually have to have like blackout curtains
Jesus.
just to sleep.
Yeah, that'd be pretty wild. It's 3 in the morning, but it looks like it's 12 o'clock during the day.
But you have to say that might even play into your mental status right there too, because if it's dark most of the day or if it's light most of the day, there's an imbalance.
Yeah, so you got to simulate a day-night cycle with your blinds. That would kind of make sense.
It's kind of weird though. But there's a lot of things in like our food over here in North America that are illegal in most countries.
Oh yeah.
In terms of preservatives.
Oh, gotcha.
Like some of the stuff that we do to our food over here is ridiculous. So it makes sense why people are also not adapting well. Like they're probably not able to. Every body is a little bit different.
Yeah.
In terms of what they can do in losing weight, but I think that's also being played up a bit by the preservatives in our food. Mm-hmm. Because we don't have like real food in a sense. Like if you go to Europe. Yeah. And you get to eat the food over there, it's different. Yeah. It's good, though.
Yeah. One thing I do like about our food here, though, man, is I really like I like deer. Deer is so delicious. My friend goes hunting all the time. He always gets me steaks every once in a while, and they're really good. Man, it's really coming full circle. We really do sound like the Joe Rogan podcast right now, talking about wild game.
But you see, I had a buddy. He gave me some deer jerky. That was great.
I gotta ask, you're from Canada. What does authentic maple syrup from a tree taste like? Is it pretty good,
dude? It's watery.
Oh,
but
it's really.
What we got. That's one thing we got to do. That's one thing. A lot of people think it's weird, like how they put the maple syrup on a stick, like they roll it up on a stick and everything at the maple syrup, like at the maple syrup tours that they do, where they actually go and tap the trees and untap the trees and everything. Dude, it's wonderful out there. I want to go do it because I lost an opportunity because I was a douchey kid who just like didn't take interest in it, but like so I didn't care about it. But seeing videos of it and everything, you're like, wow, this is good. But when you actually get to have like that canned liquid gold that is maple syrup, it makes you almost want to drink it.
Yeah, I heard you can make alcohol out of that syrup.
Yeah, you can. But I've never tried. But it's like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm thinking about taking like Canadian whiskey some days and mixing it with like just a little bit of maple syrup and see how it tastes. I put maple syrup on a steak once.
Oh my god.
It was actually good.
Oh,
like it was good. It was weird. It was strangely really good.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, we're talking about maple syrup, right? So like authentic maple syrup from Canada.
Yeah.
Canadian maple syrup. It's interesting because the syrup that we eat in the stores, going back to the obesity thing, it's not real syrup. It's basically high fructose corn syrup mixed with a thickening agent to make it have the taste and the feeling like it's some kind of maple syrup type thing.
Even the Vermont maple syrup is really good too. It's kind of like saying you wanted cocaine and only getting crack.
Yeah.
So, but it's still really good.
Yeah.
But I remember one morning we made those Kodiak cakes.
Yeah.
And I put, because I got the Vermont maple syrup because you can't get the Canadian maple syrup down here. Mm. So I put it on there and it's like really good. And I put it on my wife's pancakes as well.
Yeah.
She puts Aunt Jemima on that shit. I felt so betrayed. I actually like picked up the plate and almost threw it away.
Wow.
I was like, how dare you?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I've
never preferred, like after I've had real maple syrup, why would you want Aunt Jemima's syrup?
I don't know. Maybe she's addicted to that Aunt Jemima.
Hey, you got some of that Aunt Jemima?
Yeah. Yeah, people get really addicted to sugar, man. Like, and from what I understand, natural sources of natural sources of sugar like that actually don't have as much sugar as like high fructose corn syrup can potentially have. It's like more dense.
But we also have to not bullshit ourselves.
Well, it's still it's still sugar.
I mean, yeah, it's like I love how people are like, it's like I'm eating all this healthy sugar because it's all natural in the fruit. It's good for you.
Your body. So this is something you need to learn from a biological perspective, because I was originally going to school to be a biologist. So when your body takes in fructose or glucose, it basically has the same response to sugar no matter what form it's in.
Yeah.
It could be high fructose corn syrup or it could be regular cane sugar. It's going to have the same insulin response in your body. So don't get it twisted, because my mom does this shit all the time. Oh, it's healthy sugar because it's agave syrup. No. It's still sugar.
That's some mental gymnastics right there.
Well, because people still want to be fat and they still want to have their sugar,
I mean,
but they want to feel good about the sugar they're eating.
I mean, yeah, it's all about feeling good at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, it's not about how healthy you are. It's about how good it's how good you feel on the inside,
Yeah, until you're dead and buried in a piano case.
Yeah, you don't want that, And that's why when people ask me when I eat low carb, if I do eat pancakes, I eat low carb pancakes, and I put this monk fruit syrup on it, which is from Japan. It's really popular. Monk fruit is a natural sweetener from Japan, and I get the monk fruit syrup, and it tastes just like maple syrup, and it has the same consistency as maple syrup, and it's really good, and it's a great alternative to eating sugary maple syrup if you want to lose some weight. So,
I mean, here's the next thing I think that should be considered.
Yeah.
You know how you can't serve somebody at a bar?
Yeah.
If they're overeaten.
Yeah.
They should really stop allowing. This is gonna sound bad, but they should really stop allowing morbidly obese people to going into buffets.
Yeah.
There should be a weight limit. Be like, oh, sorry, you're over the 300-pound mark. We don't want to be a liability for your death.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's certain parts of Europe where they have a sugar tax on sodas, where they charge more money for sodas because they're trying to get people to quit drinking so many sugary sodas, which is crazy.
It's crazy, though, how in this country people will scream about, oh, why is there a tax on my cigarettes and my soda? Where's my freedom? Like, man, you're really putting your foot in that grave, really double fisting your way to death.
Yeah, they're looking to die pretty quick.
I mean, hey, if you want to commit suicide, you just go to to a gun store. Mm-hmm. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Yeah. That's never a thing I would say is but seriously, if you're another thing that we have to identify is the fact that a lot of people who eat as much as they do at times too are also trying to cover up a mental disorder too. They're medicating themselves in a way with food.
Yeah, and that's never good. It's I know we had that last podcast where we talked about some mental health stuff with toxic patterns, and an eating disorder can be seen can turn into either being really underweight or really overweight. So don't get it twisted. An eating disorder can go either way.
It really can, because it's underweight people also underweight people scare me a little more, I think,
than overweight people.
I mean, overweight is bad, but it's kind of like when describing politics to people, for example, right?
Yeah.
Someone's like, oh, why do you always shit on the Democrats and not the Republicans? It's well, the news already does that for me. So it's I don't have to.
Yeah.
It's everybody already knows it's bad to be overweight. But the second you try to get onto somebody for being underweight Skeletor, they get all mad. It's well, at least I'm not fat. It's yeah, but dude, you could use some food.
Yeah, because you could die. I mean, honestly, you're gonna die faster being underweight than you are overweight. I mean, that's just a fact, because you could literally starve to death and you won't even
you won't know it.
Yeah, you'll just die.
I mean, that's the next thing, because you're not eating enough food. Your body is breaking down just as much as if you're overweight, in a sense. You're putting a lot of strain on your joints.
Yeah, so apparently being underweight can actually cause problems for your organs too.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, because I've never had an underweight problem. I've either been at the right weight or I've been overweight,
There was only one time where I ever cut my weight down to 150. And, I mean, I didn't stay it's hard to stay at 150. 170 was hard enough, but trying to stay down, trying to see how far I could go down was pretty rough. I mean, that's when, I went past the point of feeling like beef jerky. I felt like you left me out in the sun too long.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I got a really good idea to get people in really good shape.
What's that?
So we always talk about these different diet plans and stuff.
Yeah.
When you take a look at animals, animals are always in good shape for the most part. That live out in the wild.
Not the zoo.
Yeah, not the zoo, but in the wild. And our ancestors were like they studied our ancestors, and they pretty much figured out they were in really good shape because they were pretty much starving to death half the time because they didn't know when they were going to get their next meal. So how about this? How about we come up with a new diet plan for people where we take obese people and overweight people and we put them in the woods for about 3 to 4 months. It's probably going to cost a lot of money, but you basically live off the land for 3 to 4 months, and I guarantee you, Nick, living off the land like that, you will lose a shitload of weight.
I don't know. I mean, you really have to isolate those people because you know that there's those people who live like backwoods and deal with obesity too.
Yeah,
Like
and now that I think about it, I'm thinking of that movie Heavyweights with Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
Like they were
Fat camp.
They were literally brought out into the middle of nowhere where they had to live off the land, and then somehow they figured out a way to sneak in the cookies, the cakes, the pies, and the candy. And so
Fat people are like criminals in prison. They figure out ways to get their snacks and comforts.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh man, I need to get some Skittles.
Hey, if I don't have, I'll suck your dick for some Skittles, man.
Oh my god, I'm just so hungry. Come on, bro.
I just need right now a cheeseburger. God damn it!
Please, I just really need it. Come on, bro. But we're actually getting to the end of the podcast. We got like 5 minutes left. But to kind of wrap things up, just to kind of bring everything full circle. On a serious note, we've joked around a little bit. We've been serious a little bit. If coming from two guys here who have dealt struggle with it, I would try to make strides to eat better, do better, and better yourself.
One thing that you could really do to start improving your life is just moving more.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you don't even have to start like lifting weights immediately. Just go and walk more.
Yeah. And for the podcast that's being watched on YouTube, go in the comment section and tell us what you deal with. I mean, tell us if you're overweight, underweight, or if you're really shredded. Tell us about your struggle. Tell us about your story going from being, either fit to obese or obese back to fit. We want to know all the stories that you guys go through, and we want to know a little bit about what you guys go through on a regular basis. And as always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to hit that bell notification so you can check out new episodes that come out every Friday. And be sure to check out our clips that come out if you don't want to listen to the full episodes. And also, our podcast is listed on 18 different platforms in an audio format. That includes Spotify, Google, and Apple, and a bunch of other ones too. And you can actually find that on our website if you can pick your favorite app that you like to listen to podcasts in, and you can find us there because we're listed in 18 different places now. So, but also check out our Patreon account if you're interested in investing in what we're doing and helping us grow a little bit more. And also check out our merch store. We're actually going to buy some merch in the next couple of months, and we're going to start wearing merch on the podcast so you can see some of the different types of merch we have. And if you like what you see, you can buy it.
Yeah.
So,
gotta definitely get those COVID masks out there.
Yeah,
those go away.
Yeah, he really wants y'all to get those COVID masks. I know he keeps talking about it.
Yeah, well, it's the easiest thing. It would definitely be the easiest thing to push.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean everybody needs one, and they're really not. They're inexpensive. I think they're like $7 or $8 or something like that. So
yeah,
you can pick one up. But also, if you have any ideas for different episodes you would like to see, let us know because we're going to start having guests on the show pretty soon, and it's going to get pretty crazy. We're going to have some pretty fun guests lined up, so y'all.
Some oddballs, too.
Some oddballs. Definitely stay tuned for that. But also, like I said, just, it would really do us a really good solid if you could comment. The commenting definitely helps the YouTube algorithm, and it allows us to get more searchability online. So please be sure to do that. And like we were saying, just try to be healthy. Try to be a good person. And for God's sake, please go to the doctor and get your blood levels checked because the levels don't lie, and it will really save your life in the long run. I promise. And I know Nick can agree with me on that one.
Yeah.
You know, make sure you get a yearly checkup, if anything.
Yeah.
You know, yearly physical with the blood work works wonders because it can help you discover any problems that you got going on with yourself. So, but this is it. This is the end of this episode, and I hope you guys enjoy. And as always, stay sexy, Atlanta.
And quit being fat.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Dumb, Cool, and Weird podcast with Wes and Nick. If you want to check out more of our stuff, go to www.dumbcoolweird.com. You'll find our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Patreon link if you want to support us. Also, be sure to check out our merch store. And if you're interested in being on our podcast, you can find a link on our website so you can reach out to us and tell us if you want to talk to us about something that's really weird, dumb, or cool. We'd be glad to hear from you. Hope you will stay tuned for the next weird ass episodes we got. Thank you.